Today, January 28, 2020. 100 years have elapsed since the foundation of the current Spanish Legion. The Legion is, currently, one of the elite forces of the Spanish Armed Forces. This is the royal decree that founded what was then called Foreigners Tercio. Later, it would be called Morocco Tercio, to later become known as the Legion. 100 years ago, the objective was to have a frontline combat force, specially constituted by foreign troops. His ideologist and political promoter was the then Minister of the General Infantry War, José Villalba Riquelme. And the organizer and first chief of the Foreigners Tercio was the prestigious Lieutenant Colonel of Infantry, José Milán Estrella. This military unit was born from the need to have professional troops. In order to fight against Morocco, in the Fourth War that Spain maintained, for the domination of its colonies, in North Africa, 1911 and 1927. This new military unit was based on the Foreign Legion of the France's Republic, which had been formed in 1831. The emblem used by the Legion is based on the weapons used by the famous Spanish tercios, who fought in Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries. As we can see, the crossbow, of Spanish origin, the arquebus, and the halberd, are part of this emblem. From the first moment, it was organized and instructed as a first-line shock unit, with a deep sense of respect and contempt of death. His first chief, the Lieutenant Colonel Milán Estrella, was also the true driver of a whole way of thinking, fighting and even dying. We see this reflected in the spirit of the Legion that Lieutenant Colonel himself Milán Estrella gave them through his Legionnaire creed. In the uniform, designed specifically for the Legion, the headwear, or chapiri, is very distinctive. It came from the chapeau. on September 20, 1920, the date on which the foreigners' tercio really began to be organized, when the first legionnaire was enlisted. Soon, they are able to organize 6 flags, battalions, with the best officers of the Spanish army. A flag of the Legion consisted of a company headquarters, 2 rifle companies, and a machine gun company. In May of the year 1921, under the direct command of Lieutenant Colonel Milan Astray, the first flag of the Legion had his baptism of fire in Morocco. Throughout this military campaign, which ended in 1927, they fought more than 14,000 legionaries, with a total of 8,096 casualties. The Spanish Legion is one of the most decorated units, with the lowest in combat, and the most victories achieved. And it represents the true military spirit of the Spanish armed forces. We cannot finish this first tribute video, in the centenary of the Spanish Legion, without mentioning its first 3 chiefs.
Guiones y banderines, rindan honores a nuestros muertos.
The Lieutenant Colonel José Milan Astray is founder and soul of the Legion, who organized and directed it between 1920 to 1922 and, later, in the period 1926 to 1927. The Lieutenant Colonel Rafael de Valenzuela, 1922 to 1923, first chief of the Legion, killed in combat, in front of his troops, during the Africa's War. and the Lieutenant Colonel Francisco Franco, 1923–1926, friend and staff and trusted man of its founder, the Lieutenant Colonel Milan Astray. Reason why, the then Commander Francisco Franco, directed one of the 5 flags of the Legion, since its inception in 1920. And that he became, the youngest military in Europe, to reach the general's rank, to later, become head of the Spanish state, after the Civil War, 1936–1939. Serve this video as a small tribute to 100 years of glorious military history of the Spanish Legion, and to all who gave their lives for Spain, wearing the uniform of the Legion.